Hi, welcome to part two of our course, Creating Tax-Exempt Income in Retirement. In part two, we're going to discuss income tax history, rates versus brackets, and why this should matter to you in retirement. Did you know that until 1913, the United States did not have a federal income tax? But in 1913, the first federal income tax was imposed, and it was $4,000 tax-free. The first $4,000 was not taxed. After that, the tax rate was 1% to 7%, with 7% being the maximum. Okay? By 1918, the government realized, hey, we've got a pretty good thing going here. They raised the top rate to 73%. By 1941, the top rate was up to 81%. Now, this was on income of over $2 million. Granted, there weren't many people making $2 million in 1941. John D. Rockefeller, J. Paul Getty, the Vanderbilts, but there were a few. By 1944, the top rate was at its highest level ever, 94%. And this was on income of over $200,000. In fact, from 1944 to 1963, the top rate never lower than 90%. There was a famous actor in 1944 who was being paid $100,000 per picture by the studio, and he had already recorded 2 films. They came to him towards the end of the year and asked him to film a third one. He knew the tax consequences, and he said, I don't think so. I think I'll wait till the first of next year before I do it, because if I do a third one, I'm only going to get to keep $6,000. Okay? Well, several years later, in 1980, that famous actor was elected president on the basis of his platform was reducing federal income taxes. In 1981, the top rate was lowered somewhat, 70%. And by 1988, the Tax Reform Act of 86 kicked in after Reagan had left office, but President Bush had become the new president in 1988. And in 1988, the top rate was lowered to 28%. But that was on income of over $29,000. So if you made $30,000 in 1988, you were in the top federal income tax bracket. The reason this is important, the average top tax rate over the last 110 years is 58.5%. Today, it's 37%. I have people tell me all the time that they pay too much in federal income taxes. And while I don't disagree, once they see tax history, they'll begin to understand, hey, we're actually paying less today than our parents and grandparents may have been paying. The average income needed to reach the top rate is $283,000. Today, if you're married filing jointly, it takes $693,751 to reach that 37% tax rate. Now, the reason I mention this is very simple. It is political suicide for a politician to try and run on the basis of raising federal income tax rates. He or she would never be elected. But what no one ever discusses, Congress never publicizes, what income it takes to reach the highest tax rate. It's very easy for Congress to come in and adjust these rates necessary, maybe lowering the income down to $300,000 or $250,000 for you to fall into the top tax rate. You would still pay a lot more in taxes even though the rates never changed, all because they changed the income brackets necessary to reach those top rates. That's why it's important to understand rates versus brackets. If you'll tune in next, we'll discuss why the government loves your 401k. But for now, that's all.